right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. And today we're staying on the surface, but we are going to be taking a look at being yourself in the now. But before we jump in and get started, I want to hear from our panel, and a big hello to everyone. So Lavina, please say hello.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here with you on this first quality day.
Great to have you here. Welcome. And Natalie.
Yes, hello, welcome everyone, and I'm happy to be here.
Great. And Chris.
Hello, welcome.
Great. So today is a first quality day. Today we're in trait 20, and today we're in the now. So we're going to be talking about being yourself in the now. So, and this is episode 7, and it is May 21st. So let's take a look at being yourself in the now. So what we're looking at is we're looking at trait 20. So we have a trait 20 theme. It is in the first quality, so it really is about the foundation. And this is about contemplation. This is about being in the now. So this is the recognition and awareness in the now, which transforms understanding into right action. And what is right action? Right action is being yourself. So again, that's our theme for today, is being yourself in the now. So this is about perfected behavior. So if you take a look at trait 20, it's connected to the 10 of behavior. This is about perfected survival. So if you take a look at the 57, it's connected to the survival instinct. So it is about perfected survival. It's about perfected conviction. If you take a look at the 34, the 3410 and the 3420, it's about conviction. And so it's about perfected conviction, and it's about being yourself in the now. So this is the voice of integration. This is in the first semester of the BG, or actually the second semester of the BG5 Foundation course, we take a look at the different circuitry and dive into the circuitry and what it all means. And this is the voice of the integration circuitry. This is the most individual. And we're also in the Profit Potential workshops, we're talking about communication, and this is one of the traits of communication, and this is the voice that says, I know, I am now. So this is about being you in the now. So this is the most individualistic of all the voices. So again, the time is now, and it's about being yourself in the now. So Lavina or Chris or Natalie, anything that you would like to add or share as we start off this discussion?
I'll jump in and say something. So this morning I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I forgot that we were having this discussion today. And our whole conversation was about this. It was about being and being present. And is that enough? I was really, I was crying. I was just like, is it enough for me to just be, I think we all, even though we do this work, I'll speak for myself, even though I do this work, even though I look deeply at my career design and other aspects of who I am and who I'm being as a coach, as a consultant, I think there's, especially having an undefined willpower, there's always this sense of like, is it enough? It right here to be present, is that enough? And I do not have the 20. I have a lot of first lines in my design now, and just really feeling into what it means to be in the now, and just what that feels like. And so I don't know about y'all, but I'm working this one. I'm working this one today. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. We get so caught up in, what's going to happen in the future. We get so caught up in going over things from the past that oftentimes we're not simply just present here and now,
Mm-hmm.
in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a beautiful day to really practice that being here, right here, now, in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could add what this moment is going to be about for all of us on this planet experiencing this energy, is that if this is something that you're not normally familiar with in your own career design, what can happen is that there is a lot of energy that is about being busy. Really busy, like doing all kinds of things, and you might not have anything outside of that, but just this presence to what do I need to do, what do I need to be, what do I need to be, what do I need to do. And that's the energy of doing and being busy. So it may be uncomfortable and you're like, why am I so productive all of a sudden? And you might, if you're not careful, burn yourself out. So it's just something to watch for this week.
Yeah, and you were sharing, Lavina, how you were feeling that this morning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been very productive today.
I know. I was surprised how early I got up. We had I live in Colorado, and it snowed last night.
Mm.
I know. That's why I'm wearing some fur today. It's chilly today. So I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was out brushing off the trees so that the branches didn't snap. So it is this sort of busyness, and it's this busyness in the now.
Mm.
With that snow in the now.
What about for you, Natalie?
Yeah, so it's also contemplation on being yourself, what we really take a look at today. And maybe, I don't know, maybe as opposed to thinking about it, no, there's a difference in when I feel in the flow and everything's going okay, I'm just being. And if I'm not, then I'm thinking about the past and what about the future. But if I can just let it be and follow my decision-making strategy and follow whatever comes on my path, because I have to follow my gut and respond to it, then it's not so difficult actually to just be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I like this. I mean, it's being authentically yourself. And my coaching practice is called Auténtico too. It's Spanish for being authentically yourself. So it's all about this trait.
Yeah. Just being yourself in the now. And it's interesting that what is if we take a look at the theme, this is a first quality day, and the theme is superficiality. Now, we have all kinds of prejudice about words, and superficiality we think of as something bad or negative. But also, if you take a look at what 20 is all about, it really is on the surface. Right? In the now happens now. It's not about deeply contemplating the past or looking forward to the future. It's just being present here and now. So it's really, in a sense, sort of accepting what's at the surface of things. So it's about staying on the surface. And if we take a look at our career design, where the magic really happens, the magic really happens in understanding your career design on the surface. Because if you don't understand it on the surface, and there's tons and tons and tons of depth, you can go really deep. But if you don't get it on the surface level, right, the depth doesn't really matter. The magic happens on the surface. And again, yes, there's tons of depth, but it starts with the foundation. It starts with the basics. And at the surface, there are two things that are essential in understanding your career design. And if you don't understand these two things, which in a sense are sort of on the surface, nothing else matters. You can't even get to the depth unless you understand the surface. And so it's really understanding what is your career type and how your career type operates, and how to follow your decision-making strategy. I warn my students that I'm going to tell you this over and over and over and over and over again. You can't hear it enough, because these really are the two keys to unlocking the depth and the magic of your design. But if you don't get these two things, as I said before, nothing else matters.
I often will say to people, your design does you. And so our job is really to work, to get out of the way. And that's the shadows and distractions of our career design. And so understanding their career type and how to follow your decision-making strategy is the way that you begin to work with your design in alignment with its natural, your career design, its natural expression. It's going to do these things anyway, whether you are aware of it or not. It's kind of what you're saying, Karen, is like, it's happening. But if you want to work with it and understand it, understanding at the surface level, that these two key, it's like a Zen practice, less is more. So.
Yeah, exactly. Anything, Lavina, that you would like to add?
Oh, this is so true. I can only share from my personal example, but as an example, in the beginning, first couple of years of working with the system, with other people, also that know the career types and decision-making strategies and everything. I didn't really get it. I didn't get not initiating with people. And I would offer or over offer and do things not in a conscious way of trying to prove myself, but just like, I can see that, so I can do that. Monkey see, monkey do. You're doing that, so why can't I do that? So doing all of this too much busy work, trying to get somewhere with all of this, and not sinking into, just wait for them to ask you instead of trying to always initiate and push and just sitting back and settling and waiting. And then when that happened, when I finally made the shift, things got a lot easier for me, and I didn't make so many waves with people, because now I'm having correct interactions instead of pushing too hard and getting either side getting uncomfortable because of the interaction not being clean and clear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Took years to get here.
Yeah. And, just because it is the foundation and just because it's on the surface doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. Actually, sometimes, being on the surface, those pieces are actually sometimes more difficult than getting to the depth.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to say more, Natalie?
No, yeah. So my only strength is the strength of focus, concentration, and going into the depth. And I have a 5-1 public role, so I'm really about the details all over. So it's so easy to go into depth, but it's so powerful staying on the surface. As I just was sharing, if I'm in the flow and I can just wait to respond to whatever comes on my path, it just flows, and I don't need to know anything else but the now. It sometimes it can be quite scary, actually, to lean into that, to learn to just wait, as we talked about in another BG5 live.
Yeah, exactly. And if you take a look at what waiting is, and in a sense, waiting is sort of on the surface, right?
Yeah.
It's not about, being busy and doing things. It's about being on the surface and watching for those recognitions or invitations, or, those things that you respond to, whatever it happens to be. It happens on the surface when you're present. And if you take a look at contemplation, again, contemplation, it's that place on the surface where you're really present to that here and now and what's happening in the here and now, so that you can respond, so that you can that you can hear the recognition, that you can hear the invitation, that you can make the right moves in the moment, right? Be moved into action, from that place of waiting for the right moment, so it's almost like the being yourself in the now happens always in the now, because really, if you think about it, the only place that we can ever be is in the now.
Mhm.
Even though our minds, like physically our bodies, the only place that we can be, our bodies can be, is in the now. You know, our mind can be in the past, it can be in, you know, in the present, it can be in the future, it can be, you know, well, you know,
In the
what did I
depth.
do? Yeah, wherever, you know, it can be all over the place. But if you think about it, our body is always here in the now. And that's why part of our decision-making strategy, well, our decision-making strategy, you know, is trusting that body intelligence, you know, because the body knows, you know, before our mind even knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yes.
if we don't stay on the surface, but if I do go into this depth and details and looking for answers and wanting to know and what will happen, etc., I will not even see what is right in front of me.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can get so lost in the head, so lost in the mind that we almost put on blinders, that we
Mhm.
literally can't see what's right in front of us, you know, because our mind's too busy processing all of these other things, and that opportunity is there in the now, and we miss it because we're not paying attention.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And we were discussing a little bit about this superficiality before we started our live broadcast. I would love for Chris and Natalie to share a little bit about what you were sharing right before we started our BG5 live.
Yeah. Do you want to share Natalie, where it came from, the quote, right? Or from Ra?
Yeah, so Ra talked about this quality of today, so the quality of superficiality, and that it's on the surface, staying on the surface, that's more what it's about. And he had a friend, and this friend has had this trait 20, or has, I don't know if that friend is still alive, but the trait 20 in the first quality. So he needed to stay on the surface. That was the only healthy thing, but he really wanted to dive in deep into spirituality, and he actually traveled all over the world, and he ended up going mad and being institutionalized for a year. So yeah, Ross said, you know, you really need to live your design and really need to live your the traits and the qualities that you have, and this person really needed to stay on the surface. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And as a former therapist who's worked with people and that, you know, are depressed, anxious, whatever, and that, you know, to recognize that when we are out of alignment, when we're forcing, you know, he wanted to go deep anyway. But his true design was really his gift, right? Was to be on the surface and to override that. You typically with the mind, no wonder, right? You end up mad. And it's like, whatever that looks like, I think each one of us, and we could probably look at some place in our life where we overrode something enough times that we were just like frustration, right? Disappointment, bitterness, anger. We're off track. That mind takes over and wants to go somewhere or manipulate it. And I just find that really fascinating that, you know, we do have such a, like, going deep is held in such high regard in our culture, and that, you know, someone who's shallow or superficial or stays on the surface is not valuable, or, you know, doesn't have something valuable to contribute. And yet this is just a beautiful example of how that's not true.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, Lavina, that you would like to add?
Sorry, I've been distracted because I've been having to change the spotlight video more personally because it wasn't working earlier. So as far as the process of superficiality, I feel like you guys really nailed it when it comes to diving into the quality of this theme and how it's important for everyone to have their own identification with what's unique to them in their career design, rather than just trying to go with the homogenized blueprint of what is acceptable and normal and real and trustworthy, that everybody has their own unique process. So for us today, staying on the surface, hey, that's totally fine, because that's what the quality is all about, to learn from, to learn about the genius that can come from being able to be an authority, perhaps superficially, and not having to get really complex with it, but being able to language things from a place where you can take the complex and put it up into the simple that anybody can now get it. That's one of the things that Rob was really good at.
Yeah.
You know, I was at a coaching event about a month ago, and he was talking about the different levels of, you know, genius and intelligence. And it was sort of like, you know, smarts and wisdom and blah, blah. I mean, and, you know, like he was just kind of, I can't remember. I don't have the notes right here, but the top one was simplicity. That the most transformational intelligence is that which is the simplest answer, the simplest form, the simplest space. And you know, we live in a world that's full of information. It's information driven, it's information marketing. And, you know, what I've been noticing too is that it's not so much that we need to have a superficiality. It's just like maybe we're a little bit overloaded in a lot of ways with so much information that we feel obligated to go deep. And it actually may be even creating like, oh my God, I'm not processing that. Maybe I'm a jerk. I should be processing that. Like I should be looking at this at a deeper level, when it's just like, no, it's just, you know, it just is what it is. For instance, meeting someone and, you know, having electromagnetics show up in the design, or having, you know, where it's just, it doesn't match. And instead of telling a story, it's like, oh, just, I'm being present. It just doesn't feel good, you know?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to go any deeper than that.
I love that. I love what both of you just said. You know, this you know, this simplicity, you know, in the superficial, the simplicity of the surface, you know, and you know what you said in that the world is so complex as it is. I think we've forgotten, you know, about what the surface is about, you know, what this sort of simplicity is all about.
Right. And look at all the people, like, look at how many health issues we have, and obesity and all that. Nobody wants to be in their body, right? Like we travel out here in the mental realms, and, you know, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of different ways that we can look at it. And I love this discussion because, you know, even though I can see it and I'm like, oh yeah, simplicity. Yeah. It's not until having this discussion and really being in the energy of this and talking about it with y'all that I'm like, oh yeah, this is such a sweet energy to be in. It's a really sweet space to be in.
Yeah, very cool. And you know, it's very interesting. Now, the trait 48 is about depth. But if you actually take a look at the profit potential of the 48, it's about keeping things simple. And so what's interesting is that business, right, and making money is actually something that's really simple, you know, and there's a bit of superficiality there. It's keeping things on the surface. You know, if you take a look at marketing, if you try to get too deep, like, people don't get it. You need to, like, you know, what are people going to get very quickly and very easily, especially, you know, when you're marketing your product or service. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this superficiality, sort of the business application of it. You know, it's sort of this is superficial expression as an art form. You know, it's the sloganer. You know, it's a part of innovation in the OC16 large business, because you have to be present to what's happening in the now. What are the trends? What are the fads? What does the marketplace want? What do they want in the now? You know, what's hot? What's selling now? In the news, we see it all the time, you know, the sound bites. You're not getting in depth, you're just getting a little sound bite. Social media, you know, what's being talked about now, you know, just like this image here, you know, the latest buzz, the word on the street, stay up to date, the top trends, you know, what's in or what's out, the latest craze, trending topics, you know, are you in the know? You know, this is about knowing. But it's about knowing yourself in the now. And so, you know, in OC16 perspective, you know, this is about, you know, knowing who you are in the now as a business so that you can innovate to stay up with the time, stay up with what's hot, to stay up with what's trending. If you're not aware of the now as a business, you can very easily end up going out of business. You know, think of businesses like Blockbuster Video, right? You know, Netflix and On Demand and all these Redbox and all these other things took over, and you know what was once hot now no longer is, and they ended up going out of business. So if you're in business, this superficiality, you know, it sounds, you know, again, we have this negative connotation of superficiality, but it's superficiality that works. And again, you know, slogans. Take a look at marketing and all of the slogans that are out there. It's what's going to catch people's attention on the surface so that you can bring them in and give them their product or service at a more depth. But if you can't, you know, if you can't catch them there, sometimes people, you know, there's too much information, there's much depth. It confuses people. They don't understand it, so they ignore it. You may have the best product or service on the entire planet, but if it's too complicated, people aren't going to get it and they're not going to buy it. Mm-hmm. So there's this part of marketing that really is sort of this superficial expression, but it's as an art form, you know, the slogans to bring people in that people can recognize you right away. You know, so this is really an important thing to recognize in business. It's an important thing to recognize in marketing. In getting the word out there, you know, how important this really is. You know, you need to catch people's attention in the now.
And that now, that process of things moving and shifting and changing, it happens so fast. It's just so quick. And that maybe that's one of the reasons my mind started to wonder that we have to stay on the surface and keep things simple, because life is so fast nowadays and people want that, you know, next, newest, greatest, best thing. And so get my attention now, and it's the next shiny object syndrome that's happening.
Yeah. Right. And if they're busy, you have to be able to stop them in their tracks so that they'll stop for a moment to hear you or receive you. And what's fascinating too is I have the 48, but I don't have the 20. And when I look at my own stuff, I get super deep and like really, and it's just annoying. Like how am I going to translate that? And sometimes my friends will say, what the hell are you talking about? You're like, and yet when I'm with my clients, I can simplify it. I can see the pattern. I'm very good at that. And so I'm just laughing at myself that it really is like how we interact with one another and how our career design just shows up and can hold us back or can set us free. And it's just, it's so fun to see that.
Yeah. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything, Natalie, that you would like to add?
Now, I'm just thinking of this one friend, and she loves that I'm doing this work and always asking me about another level and another depth and whatever. I think I'm going to call her today to stay on the surface since the energy is backing me up here.
There you go.
I love it. I love it.
You know, it's like I just, that what you were just saying, again, having this conversation with my friend earlier this morning, where she said, you know, you're not teaching people to do their design. You're teaching people, or their career design, you're teaching them how they're being it. And that being is on the surface. It's not about sitting there and analyzing everything. It's about trusting that it has that innate intelligence that's in the present moment, that is moving you it's the vehicle that you're traveling in, and working with that synergistically is it's like being in a car and just watching the things go by, and not like sitting there analyzing, oh my God, what was that? Did you see that go by? And just being in the moment. What's coming up next? And turn left, turn right, not, it's really fun when we think about it that way.
Yeah, if you think about it, being happens, the only place being happens is in the now.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that you mentioned that, Chris, because we have this process in the beginning where we do keep it simple for people. And sometimes people try to go too deeply, too quickly, and get up, just like Karen was saying, overwhelmed, confused, and then totally lost, and then just drop it because no, that's too much. And that's deliberately why we keep things very simple in the beginning, because it's a process that takes time to digest and really know how it works for you. And none of us can exactly go so deep with somebody and tell them precisely every single nuance of everything. Everyone has their own process of individuation, which is what we're talking about here with the 20, our individual knowing of our own self, which we always discover in the now. And it's a continually unfolding process.
Yeah. And I was just giggling, in working with clients, I have a tendency to go really deep as well, and, download a lot of information. I do that in my classes as well. And what's interesting is that at the end, I always ask, what's the main thing that you're getting out of this session? And usually a client will say this one thing, and it's just that one thing out of all of this deep material. It's that one thing on the surface that really makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's interesting. That so cracks me up, because that's exactly how it is for me too. And I actually was doing 2-hour, what is the most practical thing? Of course, I'm a 512, but what's the most practical thing? Like, what do they need to know right now? And then they can always go deeper later, but those are so much more satisfying, and people get like, they're not a fire hose of too much information. So, we think sometimes that because it's so cool, we're like, yeah, you got to know it all, but it's really not.
Right. Exactly. And I say to my students in my class, because the focus is on the business application of the human design system, and so it isn't about delivering all of this information. It is finding the solution to the problem that they're having. Yes. And when you're finding a solution to the problem that they're facing, that's really on the surface, right? It's finding out what the problem is and solving the problem without going, that's really what they need, and that's what we provide as BG5 consultants. Now, as BG5 consultants, we do need to know the depth so that we can, it's almost like in knowing the depth that we can actually bring it to the surface.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, yes.
Exactly. I often will tell people it's not about 10 years of therapy. It's like 2 clicks on the dial. Which is what you're saying. They have a problem. We come in, there's like 1 or 2 things that we get, actionable items that we can look at in their design. And here, go do these things and come, or we'll talk about it. But it's really just, it's not like, oh my God, I got to process this for years. That's what I love about this work, that whether we're talking about a team or, a leader, the alpha, who's leading the team, any aspect of that is just often like these little tweaks that are just getting the flow.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Exactly.
Very cool.
Very, very, very cool.
This was a great contemplative episode.
I agree.
Yes. I feel very, very, very zen.
Talking about the now. Well, awesome.
That's so great.
I think there's nothing more to say. So I do want to invite you, if you are new to BG5 or just finding us on our BG5 Live, and you want to get to the surface of what your career design and how you make decisions is all about, you can get a personalized report. You can learn more about your career design. You can learn more about making decisions. And again, with this free report, it's at the surface, but realize that, this is where the power is. And then if it fascinates you, there's deeper and deeper aspects that you can explore. But it all starts on the surface. So if you go to our website at bg5businessinstitute.com and just scroll down, there's a couple places on our homepage where you can order your free report. And then I also, again, wanted to invite you to the Profit Potential Workshops. We are currently in the middle of our Profit by Being You through your communication and action. And, the trait 20 is one of those traits of communication and action. So would love to invite you to our Profit by Being You workshop series. So you can go to bg5businessinstitute.com/profit, and you can check out all of our Profit Potential workshops. So I'd love to invite you to that as well. So I hope you've enjoyed contemplating in the now. It's been great to have you all here. And what are your last words of wisdom, our team, our panel here, before we sign off for today?
Wow, I don't have this as an activation. So for me, it's like the now is always changing. So if you don't like your now, just wait. It'll change. It shall pass. And just honor the process and enjoy the journey.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Lavina.
Yeah, and stay on the surface and follow your decision-making strategy.
Yeah, exactly. And Chris?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, like stay on the surface, but watch where the tendency is to bounce off the surface, because it's, a little bit challenging to be in the now. And so it's like how can you gently allow yourself to receive the now and be in the now and play with that? And then, bounce out, stay shallow, whatever. It's all right. Go play.
Yeah. Exactly. And since this is the first quality day, we are going to be experiencing trait 20 for the next 5 days or so. So just be present. Just be present in the now, and appreciate what's there at the surface.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, everyone. It has been our pleasure. And please join us live on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. U.S. Pacific time for our BG5 Live. So until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.